Hey Strong Girls, I'm Molly Herford, sports journalist, ultra runner, cyclist, and author, and founder of Strong Girl Publishing.
And I'm Dr. Sasha Golish, executive director of Yellow Running Shoes, a researcher, engineer, elite runner, and your BFF who's breaking down the science of smashing barriers in women's sports.
Think of us as the intersection of science and culture for women and girls in sport. Each week, we'll dissect the latest headlines and cutting-edge research on female athletes.
Debunk myths about girls in sport. Talk about how hormones affect performance at every age, to the latest research in sports science around mental performance, nutrition, equipment, and so much more.
And we'll spotlight badass girls and women who are rewriting the rules of the game, sometimes literally.
Expect it to be nerdy.
And occasionally TMI.
But it will always be honest.
Whether you're a strong girl yourself or you're raising one, this show is for you. Welcome to Strong Girl Talk,
where sports science meets sisterhood.
Hello, welcome back to Strong Girl Talk podcast. I am so excited that my favorite co-host in the world, Dr. Sasha Golish, gets to be in the room with me while we record this. Sasha, we're together again.
We need to do this more often.
I know. It's been too long. It's been too long. It's been 2 weeks since our last episode. I've missed these. So many sports have happened. Should we just start with our first quick shout out to Victoria, who at 18 years old won the National Bank Open in Montreal. Tennis player, fantastic. Very excited. Are there any other Canadians that have done this well in tennis recently?
Oh my gosh, you're putting me on the spot and I
Sorry.
forget her name. Yes, in recent history. She won the New York Open. Yeah. Okay, blanking. Sorry. So yes and no. My favorite part of it, there's a great gist social media post. So the men's tournament was happening simultaneously in Toronto. And when Victoria won, the crowd in Toronto was so loud that they had to pause the men's game. And the men were like, what's going on? And the umpire was like, well, so the Canadian 18-year-old woman just won the tournament. And the guys kind of like really de-escalated anyways. It was such
that is so funny.
But such a proud Canadian moment, right? Just how often do you get to compete in your country, but do win?
Yeah. Okay, so that actually leads into another news thing that I saw today on the Daily Skim. There's all of this talk right now, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the two tennis players' names, but there was a tennis match going. And you know where I'm going with this. So the men's match, they paused because news of the women's match got the crowd going. But in this match, there was a baby crying for 10 minutes straight, and the players couldn't concentrate. And finally, one of the players asked the umpire, can you do something about this? And he responded very flippantly, do you want me to ask the baby to stop crying? Yes.
No,
yes,
it was the crowd. The crowd responded that. Yeah. Right? It wasn't the tennis players. The crowd was like, yeah. So it was Sabalenka and Raducanu. Raducanu, I actually think also has Canadian ties, but anyways, not a Canadian player. But tennis is, listen, it's a conservative game, right? There are a whole lot of old school rules that go with it.
One of which is silence during the matches.
Right. And so, I'm probably going to get slammed for this, but I'm okay with them asking the baby to leave.
100%. If it was, I'm sorry, just going to say, if it was a men's game, there is literally no way.
No way they would have let this continue.
Someone would have tackled that baby.
And listen, this could change in the future, but the current way tennis works, the expectation is that it's quiet, right? And so that can change in the future. But as it stands at present time, that parent should have picked up their bit. You're right. You can't stop a baby from crying for sure. But the parent, systems, Sasha and her systems right now, right? This is a parent caregiver. Can you just exit with your bit? There are screens. You can watch the game outside. I get it. It's not the same as being live, but you brought your baby to the game.
Yeah. The number of just snide comments, pretty much all from men that are these women should just get over it. A baby's crying. I'm sorry. If that baby was crying while you were trying to watch football, I guarantee you'd be that baby's going to have to leave the room. These women are playing for a lot of money.
It's the picturing and you're not playing the game. You might be betting on it, but you're in your living room and you're just irritated. I'm oh, that's the best visual. I'm yeah.
just ridiculous. So
Yeah, I saw that too.
the fact that like women, because it's a baby, are expected to be like, oh my God, that's so cute. Like, oh no, it's totally fine that this baby is crying while I'm trying to serve at this professional game that requires silence from the crowd. No, like that is just so infuriating that the women are just getting slammed on social media for asking for a completely reasonable thing, that the rules be followed.
Okay, I'm like totally laughing. I'm like, well, that really leads into the next topic so well.
Leading so neatly into our topics. It's almost like we planned these segues. We absolutely did not plan these segues.
Oh my gosh.
Do you want to go on your rant now?
Okay, so, I ranted on social media. As of September 1st, anybody competing at the World Athletics Championships is in the female category is required to do sex testing. Why am I ranting? This is not breaking news. So, and actually, this is like, I think really, we really like solidified our friendship. So our podcast released on International Women's Day, March 8th, and we recorded a whole bunch just before that. And on February 10th, World Athletics put the consultation out, and we had until March 5th. And I was like, oh my gosh, Molly, or sorry, February 10th, yeah, to March 5th. And then they digested the information and they released it either March 20th or March 28th. Buried in a press release. But we did a podcast on this on April 2nd. April 2nd. We released it on April 2nd, so we recorded it earlier. This is not breaking news. And so that's the part I'm finding really frustrating, where people are like, oh, like, we didn't see this coming. I'm like, no. And actually, if you followed what was happening with Seb Coe in the lead up to the IOC presidency, like, this was going to happen at the IOC if he was elected president. Why are we surprised that it's happening here? Why? Not breaking news.
Not breaking news. And definitely we'll include a link to that in the show notes if you want to go back and hear the entire thing. Yeah, very, very frustrating, very scary. And, you know, we're seeing this a lot in the US as people are talking about the downstream effects of whether you're talking about trans women in bathrooms or sex testing and all of this. And what does it do? It lowers sports participation for girls because now they feel uncomfortable in public spaces. They feel like their gender is going to be, or their sex is going to be questioned. You know, if they have a short haircut, if they do not present super feminine. And this is what we talked about in that episode is like when we were kids, if this testing had been a thing, it would have been scary as hell for us. Like,
kids, Molly, if in 2015, when I came back and I was running at the Pan Am Games, I would have been scared then. Why? No one's
I
ever,
would still be scared.
right. Like, no one had ever tested me. Like, who knows? And there's so much uncertainty around it, which like makes me uncomfortable. Okay, so here's what I haven't shared with you. So in the FAQ, so if you go back and read when the policy came out, they said that World Athletics would cover the cost of this testing. So in their FAQ, they're only giving $100 per person to be tested.
So there's your breaking news. So they're doing it. That does not remotely cover.
No, and so then who pays for this? And how do you pay for this? And if you're on the bubble and you're, you know, so let's talk about USAs and Canadians. There's a couple bubble athletes. So you could have finished third or fourth, but you don't necessarily have the time standard, but you might get in on points. Is the federation, and we're wealthy federations, relatively speaking, but sports systems are strapped, you're not going to pay for both of those athletes to do the test. And so you're probably then going to put it on the athlete to have to pay for testing. And like, this is, one, not what they committed to, so fine. Yes, I get that they're doing it this way so there's no targeted testing, but it's the invitation for targeted testing beneath that just makes my skin crawl. It keeps me up at night all the time.
Yep. And as we've been saying, this also is going to impact the nations that have less money the most. Because
yeah, what do you think they're going to do? Nude parades.
Yep. Anyways, on women's sports highlights, so we just crap sandwiched that one. We had a highlight, we had a low light, we had a low light. We're going to have one more highlight. Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift was fantastic this year. Phenomenal. Oh my gosh, just fantastic racing. So tactical.
Okay, what was your favorite stage?
Ooh. I mean, look. You know me. I called Pauline Ferrand-Prévot for the win on many channels. I said it on
February. You called it in February.
Yep, I said it on here.
Yeah,
I said it on Bicycling Magazine. I said it on the Queen Stage Women's Cycling Podcast. I've said it. I've shouted it from the rooftops that she was going to win. So obviously for me, the Queen Stage where she took the yellow jersey. is going to be my favorite stage because we were waiting for her to just stomp that race. And she did. And you know what? She called it. She said, I'm going to, like, that's my stage. That's where I'm going to go. That's what I've trained for. And then she executed flawlessly.
Oh my gosh. It was, okay. So on your other podcast, The Queen Stage, when you're talking about, well, what do people do? Watch 8 hours of cycling on Saturday, Sunday? Yeah.
Yes.
I did. But like, listen, you had to do it for work. I just willingly did it and was like joyous to watch that much. Like, I loved it. So I actually loved, my favorite stage was the first stage. I loved the shortness of it, the punchiness of it. And I'd love to see more of those stages. Like, I'd love men's and women. So Tour de France Homme and Tour de France Femme avec Zwift. Zwift, if we want it French, Zwift. I'd love to see sort of like different courses, maybe not finish in Paris, but like where you're near the mountains and you could go in and out. So I was really reflecting upon what you all were talking about on the Queen Stage. And I think what would be really cool over a 10 to 14 day stage race would be to like go in the mountains for a couple days and then maybe throw a short punchy stage in, maybe a mountain stage. And then but that short punch, I loved the way the peloton worked together. I loved that actually it was going to be anybody's win, but I will give you, those short punchy stages should not finish on an uphill.
Thank you.
No problem. Well, just, it eliminates too many of the like, who could win this?
Exactly. And I didn't get as many like I said it on that podcast, I'm going to say it here. I wanted more lead out trains. I really want to see the women doing that. I recognize that like they only have 7 riders compared to the men's 8. Like, so a lot of the teams kind of unfortunately lost a lot of the riders. So not a lot, but like lost a few of like the key ones. So it was a little harder to do some good lead out trains. And we did see a few, but I would prefer, some more flat stage endings. I wish they'd, mixed it up a bit more, but I mean, all in, I was so happy with that race.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like, I just can't wait for more. And so, I said to you, like, I'd love to be there, but I was like, no, you know what? I kind of love watching it on TV. I get to see the whole thing. It'd be really cool to be there, but I also just love watching it. Massive shout out to Hannah on Flow Sports for her coverage. Hannah, you're amazing. You do a great job covering it. And it's your love, not just for broadcasting, but for like women, like not just women, but cycling. Like, you just love what you do. So thanks, Hannah.
100%. I mean, head and shoulders above the last couple days of the men or the women's coverage in the US where they switched over to Phil Liggett. It was not great.
No, he's a legend in himself,
in men's cycling.
And in knowing the regions, fine. And so have him comment on the regions and like leave Hannah and Anthony in there who know the women's peloton so well. I mean, they talked about their cyclocross, their mountain bike. They don't just know the road racing, they know the cycling.
Well, at least they know the riders' names, because that was also an issue a few times in the US, apparently. Okay. So, anyway, all in, so happy with how that race shook out. And we are kind of finishing our like month of what has been really like cycling heavy coverage, talking to Lindsay Richter of Ladies AllRide. She has been getting women excited about mountain biking for over a decade, which is super rad. Also was on Survivor back in the early aughts, which we talk about. Hilarious. Her history in sport, in cycling in particular, is phenomenal. And this was such a fun conversation. Sasha, I'm sorry you weren't there. You could not be on that call, which is very upsetting. I think you were in a meeting. But
I was totally in a meeting. Yeah. I'm like, actually, I can just picture my schedule. But it's so interesting. Like, I'm sad I missed it, but I love that we're telling these stories. I think it's so important. I think often these women are the like unsung heroes. So I'm glad that we're like uplifting these voices, because these are the women, these are the people that make such a difference in the world.
Exactly. Yeah. So she goes around the country with her van, with her bikes, and does these just women's days and gets, ladies out on bikes and out on the trails, and just so cool. And also shout out to Liv Cycling for, helping her make that actually happen with the bikes and everything. She also has a great little kids book that we talk about too. So we will include a link to that in the show notes. I will let her introduce herself because she is phenomenal. So enjoy this chat with Lindsay Richter. All right. Lindsay, Richter, welcome to Strong Girl Talk. I am so excited to have this conversation with you.
Thank you. Me too. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and okay, so I admit, before we get into Ladies AllRide and what you're doing now, as I was skulking around the internet looking you up, there was one thing that came up, and we have to clearly go back to 2002 and talk about the fact that you were on, sorry, Survivor. Um, Sorry, just like what the hell? How did that all transpire? How did it go? What was it like? We got to start there.
Of course we do, because it's funny. I can say all these things that I've done in the bike industry and how long I've been racing and my passion for getting more women into cycling. But the second people find out I was on Survivor, they just go, "What?"
We can't help
Um,
ourselves. We have to start with establishing that fact.
I mean, it's a pretty fun fact, and it is a unique life experience that not many people get to experience, and I am happy to talk about it. It really happened in, well, 2001 is when it all happened. I had my dream job in uh, advertising and PR in downtown Portland, where I grew up. I had an office with a door. I thought I had made it big. I was 24.
Sorry, we
All
just
my
have to
friends who
click on
were,
like office with a door
that's
as
a big
like the
deal.
pinnacle. I love it.
All my friends worked at Nike and they were in cubicles. And I was like, I have a door, y'all. Like my door closes. It was unreal. So the internet was new back then. Remember that? The early 2000s when the internet was new.
Oh yeah.
Um, and so all of our clients were .com clients. And, rewind a little bit after college, I lost my fitness for a long time and I got into advertising and it was kind of a grind. And my only way of getting back in shape was to take spin class at lunch. And that led me to decide to start racing mountain bikes. And so I was racing mountain bikes already as in the early 90s when it wasn't, real popular yet. And then in my advertising career, the .com boom crashed and my whole department got laid off. I got laid off from my office with a door. And I'm like, what am I going to do now? And the guy in the office next to me, he literally printed out and handed me the application for Survivor because he's like, and I hadn't seen it. And he said, you come in every Monday all like limping and bloody. And of course, wearing skirts to show my bloody knees. Like, oh, I was in a mountain bike race over the weekend. I'm a mountain biker. And he's like, it's this TV show where all these crazy people get together and they do these challenges where they're like competing against each other on the beach and it looks crazy and you seem like it'd be perfect for it. And I was like, yeah, okay. And so I read the application thing and I had to make a video of myself. And I'm like, well, I bet not many people mountain bike. So, of course, you have to stand out. So I had my friend put body paint on me and I had clips of myself riding my mountain bike in my local park without any clothes on and did a whole like sequence of being crazy and this was a day and age where I had a video camera that I had to plug into a VHS and I had to put two VHSs together and hit play record to edit. And boom, I don't know. I filled out the application like everybody else, and I sent in my play record VHS tape about 2 days before the deadline, and got the call and went down to LA. And about 1,000 people were sequestered in a hotel room for 8 days of interviews, and somehow I got myself on Survivor, and I was on the third season ever in Africa, and it was a life-changing experience.
Okay, when you say life changing, good life changing, bad life changing, just plain life changing. Clearly,
Yeah,
you didn't go back to the office with the door, or at least you have not ended up with an office with a door.
I never
Wow.
worked in an office with a door again. A door, the irony of that is that was too confining for me. And being on Survivor really opened up my world. I say life changing because I can explain it as, describe it as the best and the worst experience of my life. It was traumatizing in the way that it was really hard. It was real. They are starving us. They are wanting us to fail. They are wanting us to fight. They are wanting us to be as crazy as possible, strip us of all of our comforts, whittle us down with hardly any food and see what happens. And then being, put in front of 30 million people, they made us famous really quickly in those early days. And we went on David Letterman and Howard Stern in the early show. And I was in an Eminem music video with Eminem and Dr. Dre. And I got all these wild experiences, but I also got the backlash of being publicly ridiculed and put down. And watching yourself on TV it was shocking. I guess I didn't realize I dealt with mental health issues and kind of manic behavior, and watching that amongst 30 million other people and reading chat rooms about what people were saying about me. And
Oh God,
it
you
was,
read the comments?
I read the comments. You can't help it. And this is, and again, the internet is new. And so thank goodness social media wasn't around, because that would have crushed my soul. It would have been too easy to blatantly take us down. But you had to go into these chat rooms, because that was the thing back in the day. And they were brutal. And so that was super life altering, because I had already dealt with some mental health issues, depression, anxiety. I'm not sure what it was back then, but manic highs and lows. And then I moved to LA from Portland and got thrown into the audition world, where once again, it was just like beat down after beat down. And so my mental health took a dive, but that's really what led me into what I do today. And it's just an example of, when life beats you down, we can either let it beat us down, or we can use it as a stepping stone for opportunity. And bikes and mountain biking and the community that I found through biking, especially when I was in LA and I would get out of the house to go race my bike, it showed me that I am strong and capable, and I don't need this bullshit, and I don't need to listen to what anyone else thinks of me, because they don't know me. And the really gave me this path towards, self learning about myself, and the self growth path that I was on is because of bikes and because of being ridiculed by 30 million people.
It occurs to me like you would be one of the very few people that would actually understand what like even teenagers kind of grow up with on social media now, because most of us kind of got through the early aughts and like the early internet with like very minimal with actual like online bullying, but you really had like first-hand experience with that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I feel like I was unprepared for that. I didn't have those walls up. I was very young, in my early 20s. The internet was new, social media wasn't out yet. So we weren't voluntarily putting ourselves online. The internet was, taking clips of the show. And at that time, you couldn't even watch the show on repeat. You had to watch it live. Right. And so the live shows would turn into these like banters online of people just going off in these chat rooms, analyzing every move you made. And it definitely was shocking and really hard to take. And, I'm grateful for it in a way, because it really thickened my skin and helped me at least be a voice to this younger generation, that you have got to believe in yourself and love yourself first before you let this outside world have any say in who you are.
Oh, absolutely. And okay, this sounds like we're heading into a new arc, a like very like main character energy kind of like new chapter of your life. You're mountain biking in LA. When does the idea for Ladies All Ride come into your brain, and then how does it turn into, the kind of behemoth that it is now?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great path. I went to races out of LA, and I went to what is called the Sea Otter Classic in 2002, which is a big kind of a kickoff to the season. And that was my first time being around like the actual bike industry. I'd raced all these little Oregon races, and suddenly I was like, holy cow, this is the industry. Here's all these pros and these teams. And then I went up to what it was called at the time, the Norba National, which was the National Off-Road Cycling in Big Bear. And I got exposed to a lot of people. Because I was on Survivor. I was kind of more famous than a lot of those mountain bikers. And so when I was racing the cross country race, we had to do laps, and I would come through the finish line, and I'll never forget a pro racer. And I didn't know who she was. Her name was Lee Donovan. She was a huge Survivor fan, and she was announcing the race. And every time I'd come through, she would be like, I don't care who else is here. Lindsay from Survivor's coming through the finish line. And she ran up to interview me afterwards and like just made such a big deal out of me being on Survivor. And through that, I ended up meeting a downhill racer, and I didn't even know downhill was a thing. I was a cross country racer and, low level, like sport class. And I met this pro downhill racer, and I had the time, and we started traveling the country together, racing bikes. And I ended up marrying him a year later and managing his career
As you do. Yep, yep. Tracks.
as you do at 27 years old, And I was also kind of like, get me out of this Survivor era of my life. Like I was getting recognized on the street, and this just leads to the self-esteem thing without social media. But the behemoth that Survivor was, I would be anywhere in this country and people would recognize me. And I'm not kidding you, people would walk right up to my face and be like, "Oh my gosh, are you Lindsay from Survivor? I hated you." And you're like, or I loved you. It was a hit or miss. I feel like the gay community loved me. So the gays are my people. And that really made me feel
Nice,
good because I
nice.
trust you all. I trust your judgment. But I did get the I hate you. I hated you on the show and I wanted you voted off.
I
And
like the phrase "I hated you" on the show because it like implies this like distance to like telling you that they hate you. Like, I'm not gonna go as far to say I hate you, but I hate you. Like, what a
totally.
weird turn of phrase, like choice of phrasing.
And it happened a lot. And I would just sort of, my response would be, I wasn't acting. I wasn't a character. I was just myself on the show. So you're just telling me that I am not good enough. And it crushed me a lot. And I really wanted to distance myself from that persona. And so I was kind of excited to get married and change my name and take his
Ah.
name. And honestly, that led to a lot of opportunities in the bike world because he was at the top of his game at that time in downhilling and was moving into wanting to sponsor a kids team, wanting to be more of an ambassador of sorts, and switching from racing into free ride. And the whole all ride term came up because the bikes were changing. It wasn't just a cross country bike anymore. It was now long travel bikes, downhill bikes, jump bikes. And so the term all ride really was his way of saying that he rode all the bikes. And over time, we had the All Ride Tour, we had the All Ride Kids Academy, the All Ride Free Ride team. We had a demo program. We were really ahead of the game in the early 2000s. We had a sprinter van in 2004,
Ooh,
traveling
van
back and
life before it
forth.
was cool.
Totally. Yeah, it was totally van life before it was cool. And through those years, that decade of traveling with the All Ride Tour, I started noticing, wait a minute, there's nothing for women. I had one girl on our race team. It was a 13-year-old who we brought up through the races. And all the teams in the industry had one girl on the team. So I started just really taking note of the lack of participation of those who identify as women, non binary folks. I just really started noticing that this is a male dominated sport. All of the sponsorship meetings we sat in revolved around the men's teams, how much money was going into the men's programs. And finally, I had moved back to Bend, which my hometown is Oregon, and I met a woman who's one of my top coaches now, Erica, who brought me into her riding community. And there was a time period where I was just the mountain biker married to the pro. And suddenly I'm not as good as all these people. And I was starting to feel that can't keep up. I'm not as good as you. And, again, that emulates life where I wasn't as good. I was comparing myself to all these top level athletes. So when moved back to Bend and I met this community of women who just wanted to ride for fun, I was like, this is where it's at. This is what I want to see more of. And I would go on these shop rides. Like he's my ex now, and that's a whole nother story. But
I was like, you're
as
jumping
this
ahead.
as the story goes, we would stop at shops because he really was teaching me what it looked like to be an ambassador and showing sponsors what it meant. Racers were sitting behind pit walls and getting ready to race, where he really did teach me what it means to actually represent these brands and go connect with the people And so we'd go to these shops and we'd say, hey, we have a fleet of bikes, we have a bunch of clothing. Let's create a ride. So the shops would invite all their super fans of the racers in to come ride. And they'd be like, oh, a pro racer, let's go ride with the pro racer and let's hammer him. And then I'm like the token girl in the back, like, did they go left? Did they go right? I just crashed. I'm bleeding. Nobody gives a shit about me. Like,
Oh, and I'm sure like once you did catch up, anytime they like stopped to eat, they'd be like, all right, and we're back on, and like off they go.
oh, she's okay. Totally typical. And so I really started realizing this is why there aren't more women in this sport. They feel like they can't keep up. It's dangerous. It's scary. They don't have their ride community where they feel like they fit in and they can ride to their level without getting hammered. So my friend Erica in 2010 turned to me one day and we were both guiding for the local guide company out of Bend, Cog Wild mountain bike tours. And we would just lead these rides. And a lot of the times it was men who were showing up for these rides. They would size us up. And that was my race training. I would just hammer as hard as I could. So these men would be like, oh, okay, she's legit. She can ride. Well, Erica said, we should go learn to coach. Have you ever thought about that? Because part of guiding, we were like, man, these people don't actually know how to ride. Right. And so we went and learned, we got certified to coach in Whistler with the PMBI Coaching Association. And that was it. I was like, oh my God, this is what I have to do for the rest of my life. People are not learning this sport in a way that makes sense. And there is a way. And that was super eye opening to me. It's not just riding a bike, muscling through and trial and error is one thing, but I have enough scars and bruises and I'm banged up enough to know if I could teach women how to do this and create a series of events where they are invited to learn this sport amongst like minded people, I think it'll be a game changer. And that is where
Yeah.
the journey began.
Oh, I love it. And it's so funny. We talk about this all the time in swimming, in golf, in so many of these sports, like boxing, any of this stuff, the assumption is that of course you're going to get training, you're going to get skills coaching to do the thing. So, in swimming, so you don't drown, in boxing, so you don't get punched in the face, mountain biking, where you could very easily just fly into the bushes or over the bars or whatever. No, just go out and just try a bunch of stuff till you figure it out. Don't worry about it.
It's just riding a bike. And I learned that as a kid. How hard could it be?
Yes,
And I think
very.
that's the issue. Yeah, is that people kind of had that attitude and then they went out and tried it and had an injury or flew over the bars and they were like, holy crap, this actually is dangerous. And I don't want to be a part of it. And I wanted to change that. So I started bringing it up in sponsorship meetings at the end of hearing where the budgets were going for Red Bull Rampage and all these massive events. And I was noticing the marketing on all the magazine covers were turning into free rides. So it was like the changing face of mountain biking. It's like, oh, this is way less inviting for women. Now instead of just showing race shots, now you're showing dudes hucking cliff gaps on their bikes. What woman is going to see the cover of a magazine of a dude doing a 360 over a cliff and go, oh, that looks like a sport I want to get into? What parent is going to be like, oh, I want my kid to get into mountain biking? That looks fun.
You are so right. The media depictions of mountain biking, even now, like it's like when you look up like women in business, the like images you get when you look up mountain biking in just like, Canva or whatever like Getty images you're looking at. It's yeah, always a dude who's in the air like
It's extreme.
backwards and you're like, "Wait, this is not how 99.9% of people mountain bike. Why is this how we're putting it out to the public?"
Totally. And I mean, it's always been advertised, especially when I got started, as an extreme sport, an
hmm
action sport, instead of just like a lifestyle sport. It's a lifestyle, and you can choose to be as gnarly or as chill as you want. And that was really where the jumping off point was for Ladies AllRide. Enough sponsorship meetings and enough of me developing my pitch. I understood marketing, I understood advertising, I knew the agency side and I knew the client side. And so I approached it from that angle. Like, I know how you can speak to another demographic and get them to buy bikes Because if the end goal is to get them to buy your product, I don't know that Red Bull Rampage is actually going to sell more bikes to a new demographic. Have you thought of that?
Yeah, I might sell more Red Bulls, but even that I kind of doubt.
Because Red Bull gives you wings as long as you know how to land it.
Yeah, yeah. Gives you wings, but in kind of like an Icarus sort of way.
Yeah, let's hope the landing isn't a cliff gap with nothing in the middle.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's so smart. And I think I really appreciate that you approach this in a way that's like, this isn't like when we support women in cycling, we are not just doing something that's like, oh, it's, good for women. It's like the right thing to do. No, this is a business proposition. Like this is smart business. Yes, it's also the right thing to do, let's be clear. However, like it's not just like the company is doing this out of the goodness of their hearts. This is actually
Right.
like,
Like
hey, here's your consumer base. Here's how we reach them.
there's a whole new consumer base that you aren't speaking to. And let's be real, this is before, what I would like to call the women's movement or the diversity movement, where people started realizing, like waking up to the fact that, oh, yeah, our company is all dudes. Oh, yeah, our race team is all dudes. This is way before that. This isn't about tokenism or because you don't have women, you should have women. These are the decision makers in many households. These are the people who run the ship if they have a family. We all we all know this, especially back in the early 2000s when there maybe were still gender roles where women and where they were having families and feeling like they had to take care of a lot of it while the dudes went out and worked or their partners worked. And I feel like my generation, because I was born in the 70s, was just kind of starting to realize like we both can work, we both can have careers, but we also both can have lives. We need to take care of ourselves. And that was my big message. Was I was realizing I was watching a lot of my friends have kids, because at this point I'm in my mid 30s when I'm starting to realize all this, and I'm at that breaking point of like, do I want to have kids or do I want to really focus on career? And I wanted to focus on career, but I knew that my clientele, a lot of it was going to be women who are having kids and are forgetting to take care of themselves. And how can you show up for your family if you are not showing up for yourself? And that was my big thing in sponsorship meetings, was like, well, women, they're busy. I'm like, yeah, no shit, they're busy. And they need to be able to handle it. And by handling it, they need to be able to take care of themselves and feel strong.
100%. Yeah. And it's funny, we just were talking to Vanessa Hauswald, who is
Yep.
one of the people at She Sends, one of the people at Nika. She's amazing. And
Yep.
that's what she was talking about. We were talking about the moms that are at, the kids events. Mainly we were talking about kids events, but then we kind of got talking about the moms. And she said, by and large, the dads will stick around and like volunteer or just go out and ride while their kids are at these mountain bike things. The moms are, back on their computers in the car or out running the errands because that's like the chance to grocery shop or whatever. So they've been really trying to push to like, no, like the moms can ride too while we're at practice. Like this is a good time. Um,
Yeah. Get into it.
yeah. And I mean, mountain biking is intimidating, like we said. So, how do you kind of like bridge that gap and get to the woman who's a little terrified at this concept? Because we just coached a women's road clinic last week here, and we were talking about mountain biking, talking about off-road, and I was kind of shocked, to be honest, that like all of these women who ride the roads, which actually seems way more terrifying to me personally. Like I'd rather be I'd rather be in charge of my own destruction rather than be on the roads. But that's just me. But they were all like, "Oh no, I could never start mountain biking at my age. I can't mountain bike because," and they all had these reasons. So, yeah, talk to me about how you bring people into this.
Yeah, I mean, I really try to focus my marketing efforts on helping everybody see themselves mountain biking. I try to show all different walks of life, all LGBTQ plus, women of color, all body shapes, all sizes, all fitness levels. I really try to show that because those are the types of people showing up at our camps. And we're lucky enough to have photographers and to take video. And I just show the best video I've ever had on social media was recent best video, meaning the most engagement, likes, all the things you judge yourself by on social media, was of a 74-year-old ripper who came to our camp. She's just a rockin' woman who is a retired professor of philosophy, and she comes to a camp every single year to just brush up on her skills, make sure she's staying strong and doing it right. Um, and she is a spokesperson for that older generation. And her motto is, you've got to keep moving and you've got to keep challenging yourself. So I really try to show all walks of life in our photos and in our videos so that by chance, if they're curious, they can get on there and see that age doesn't have to be a limiting factor. I'm very open about my own age, being 50. One of my top coaches who teaches all the jumping and dropping, um, she's 55, and we're teaching high level skills to a lot of younger people. And whenever I get an email of someone, who says, wow, I'm just getting into mountain biking, I feel so old, I'm 42. You're like, and then the women who are 60 are laughing at me for saying I'm 50. And so it goes. And, another thing is we're really open about life at our camps. And I try to get maybe a recording of my welcome speech, or maybe put this on my marketing, that mountain biking is a lot like life. And we're only as good as we think we are. And if we put these limiting beliefs into our lives, it's going to hold us back. And we talk about not comparing ourselves to others. I use a Brene Brown quote: comparison is the thief of joy. Ride your ride, live your life. Only you can control how you show up, how you choose your attitude, how much you believe in yourself. And mountain biking is the kind of sport that it is intimidating and it is scary and it can be dangerous. That's why you should do it. Um, and that's a big I watched my mom die of Alzheimer's very recently, and it
Oh,
was
I'm
a
so
long,
sorry.
yeah,
So
thanks.
hard.
It was gnarly, and the watching her demise, the slow burn, was traumatizing in itself. And just seeing her lose her identity and not know who anybody was. Um, I've also learned a lot about Alzheimer's, and there's a lot of things we can do that can encourage our bodies to have that disease and can discourage it. And one of those things is doing new things, doing hard things, challenging ourselves, challenging our brains, doing things that scare us so that we learn how to rewire ourselves to work beyond those self limiting beliefs. And a lot of that also was watching my dad. He stayed in his comfort zone his whole life. He was at the same job since 1973. He had a wife who took care of everything. They had very traditional gender roles. And when she got really sick and he had to take care of the laundry, the cooking, the grocery shopping, I saw this freeze. He froze. Just, I don't, how do I do all this? And right, it really made me even want to speak louder to this population who feel like they can't, to remind them that that feeling of I can't is because of fear. You're afraid of getting out of your comfort zone, of doing something that challenges you. And it is a necessity for growth mentally, physically, and psychologically in life. We are always going to face challenges. We are always going to face some kind of trauma, whether it's watching your parents get old. Like we don't have classes on that. We haven't learned about what we have to deal with when our parents start aging. And for our generation, I think it's really all generations, it's traumatizing to watch your parents age. But if you have a sport like mountain biking that you can go and have that release of energy, that it does so many things. It gets you outside, it gets you moving, it challenges you, it gets your heart rate up. It's mentally stimulating and puts you in the moment. It brings community into your life. So now all these things that we're being told are good for us, you can get all that in this one activity. And that's really what I'm trying to say to a lot of women is, don't let fear hold you back. It doesn't have to be gnarly. There are trails all over this country being built by amazing trail organizations that are meant for all levels of riding. And you get on those green trails and you ride the ride that feels good for you, and you challenge yourself to the degree that feels right for you. And you don't have to jump a cliff gap jump ever.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And then, I also think, we're talking about aging parents. And then I do think for the parents or the moms out there listening to this, I think there's also such about moms and even grandmas, I guess, out there listening to this. There's such a value in also being the role models for the young girls that are coming up, right? Like if mom, like how cool is it if mom like shreds on the mountain bike? Like if she's the one riding with you, like whether you have like a daughter or a son, right? Like whatever, like how cool is that?
It's so cool. And in Bend, where I live, that's all my mom friends. They have their own riding group. They call them the mom group, and they always are recruiting moms that they meet at school to come ride or to come take a ladies all ride camp. They do ride with their kids, and I've watched their kids go from strider bikes to racers or just rip and shredders who go to Whistler. Their family vacations are centered around biking with the family. And honestly, my brother and his wife, they're so awesome, and I'm an aunt, and that's great. But they raise their kids a lot like we were raised in the city, doing the school sports, and they're awesome kids. But I've just kind of seen the difference in the kids who are raised on bikes and to be tough and to fall down and get a little bloody and watch mom fall down and get back up and working through all this as a family. There's this crazy level of strength and adaptability in these kids that just feels different. They just have this like the strength of resolve of getting out there and getting after it. And they had their parents as role models to do that.
For
And
sure.
it's very different and it's really cool. And it's cool because my niece and nephew now are starting to get interested in these sports. But living in a city, it's just hard. It's hard to get out. It's hard. Going camping is like a whole thing, where if you live in these mountain towns and it's something you just do all the time, it's right outside your door. That's awesome. But I do think that, we're speaking to people who live everywhere, that it's important that you try, you do your best, even if it's just riding on your city paths and that's what you have access to. It's still getting outside and doing a sport and sharing it with your kids. And yeah, the moms I see who are sharing this sport with their kids are really rad. It's super cool.
Yeah, no, I love to see it. Also don't have kids, so I see all of my friends. The moms have luckily like let me hang out with them.
Yeah,
Like I have a dog.
totally.
Does that count? I don't know.
Totally. Dog mom over here. Yep. Yep.
Exactly. Like excessively dog mom energy coming off of me, but it's fine. It's fine.
Same, same thing. Same, but different.
And okay, here's an excellent time to point out that you actually have a children's book. Etiquette is a big word. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, that was kind of a COVID project. I had a woman actually, Heidi, who is my co-author, and she is a lovely example of someone who she is an engineer at Boeing. He got into biking to get out of the house, to get out of the office, to find community. And during COVID, she noticed that the trails were starting, more and more people were starting to ride, and there was a lack of etiquette. And so she approached me as someone who, my degree is in journalism. I love writing. It's my thing. And I haven't really had the opportunity to with Ladies AllRide and what we do now. It's social media, newsletters. And so she approached me and was like, "Hey, would you want to write a book for kids about etiquette?" And it was funny when I pondered it, I was like, "Oh, that sounds like a tough topic to cover with kids, more adults need it than kids, I
I was
feel
gonna say,
like."
like, can we also point out that this book is great for the fellow riders in your life who are maybe a little iffy on their trail etiquette
A
here.
little iffy about widening the trail because they don't want to slow down their Strava time. Um, and so, yeah, we just sort of like collaborated on some themes, and we wanted to make the main character, out of the out of the norm. We see a lot of white people biking, and I didn't want I wanted to be an ally in a sense to show more diversity on the trails. So my main character is this awesome little black girl, and she is leading the boy, and the boy crashes, and he helps him, and she is kind of the leader. I wanted to show vulnerability for boys. I wanted to show strength for girls. I wanted to show, there's one part where she looks up the hill and it's a steep hill, and she feels, proud of herself when she gets up it. And the boy, it's a rhyming book. So everything's short sentences and rhyme. And the boy, he looks up the hill and feels nervous because he prefers to go downhill. But then when he sees Izzy, the main character, crush the uphill, it inspires him to try harder. And then he gets that sense of what it feels like to push yourself out of your comfort zone and get to the top. So the book is a combo of learning how to be prepared to go on a ride, to learning how to accomplish things, and the joy of riding, and also etiquette of trails and good etiquette. The boy crashes because a downhiller doesn't pull over, uphill has the right of way, and also taking care of the land and the places that we play in. And it really, people ask me what ages. I'm like, 4 to 50, 60. I know all ages. And it's a rhyming book, so it's fun to read, I think, and it really just gets the point across that we need to be prepared. We need to know what we're doing out there. We need to respect other riders and other trail users and respect the land that we play in. So it's
Oh,
fun.
I love it. I love it. And of course, we'll include a link to that in the show notes. And before I ask you where everyone can find you and follow you, my last question, now that we've been talking about all of this, like, mountain biking is this great way to, add difficulty, add challenge, add that kind of stuff to our life. You've been doing this for so long. How do you keep it difficult and challenging?
That's a great question. There is a joke I have amongst my coaches and my peers that it would be great if I could just take my own advice when I get down on myself. Um, Coaching is challenging. You're dealing with all walks of life, all personality types, different goals at our camps that people may have. It's a very extensive process for us to put people in groups. And that's something that I really want people to know. While our camps look big on the outside, they are in groups of 7. And they have to fill out a questionnaire that really helps us identify where their goals are, where their skill level is already at, so that they're in a group that feels good for them. If they're new to riding, they're going to be in a group of others who are new to riding. Um, that's challenging. I love that challenge of making sure that our camps feel very comfortable. We want everyone to feel like they belong. And so grouping them in the right groups so that they feel that way is important. Then coaching, I'm always learning and growing as a coach, learning how to accommodate different learning styles, different abilities. If I have someone who's progressing really quickly and someone who maybe isn't getting it quite yet, how to communicate it so that they feel they're going to get it. You're not always going to get everything in a weekend, right? So I love that challenge of really helping people understand the deeper meaning of mountain biking, the deeper connection they have with their bike, and that it doesn't have to be about perfection and mastering all these skills. It's about progression. And that's like life. And I have to remind myself of that too. We should celebrate the little successes, just learning to stand on your pedals and weight your feet and keep your hands light. Celebrate that little success, because those little skills add up to the bigger maneuvers. And I try to use that in my daily life. Every time I grow or learn something or make a mistake on the bike or in life, I'm always going to keep growing. And honestly, for me, the growth on the bike, how I challenge myself is I'm lucky enough that I get to ride trails all over the country. And, I have been asked before, so, how do you progress? Do you just go hit bigger jumps or bigger drops? And I'm like, I'm 50, yo. I don't know. I'm probably hitting smaller jumps these days because I don't have time to get hurt. So the way I progress on a bike and the way that I feel good is I have the skills to go ride any trail that's put in front of me and sight unseen on the fly, manage my skills to ride that trail. And that's how I challenge myself, going to Sedona or Moab and riding those big, chunky, rocky, techie lines that I don't have in my hometown, and having the skills to be able to do that. And I love that. And I want that for everybody.
Oh, so good. Okay, tell us where everyone can find the Ladies All Ride camps, where they can follow you, all the things.
Thank you. Yeah. Ladiesallride.com. I mean, really, the message is that we should all ride, that women should all ride together. And I also named my company back in 2010. I really want to be clear that all LGBTQ plus non-binary folks, all who find that as a welcoming space for them to learn mountain biking are welcome. It's just what the company is called to differentiate cisgender men from showing up, right? um,
So just no cisgender men. There we go.
yeah, that's it. Right. Yeah, exactly. That's it. And yeah, ladiesallride.com, Ladies AllRide Instagram and Facebook, TikTok. I'm 50. I got to be on all these things. It's not my favorite thing in the world, but I'm really hoping to use my platform on social media to just show what mountain biking can be for everyone so that it feels welcoming and inviting and not doesn't have to be gnarly. I'll show some cool stuff of 50-year-olds and 6-year-olds hitting jumps and drops, so that you don't have to put an age on it. But I also want to show that there's mellow trails out there and everyone can ride if they put their mind to it.
Oh my gosh, I love it so much. Lindsay, thank you so much for chatting with me. This was an absolute blast.
Thanks so much for having me. This was awesome. I love what you do, and I'm very honored to be here.
Thanks so much for tuning into the Strong Girl Talk podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, definitely head over to wherever you listen to podcasts and rate, review, and of course, subscribe so you never miss another episode. And head over to stronggirlpublishing.com to check out all of the books by Strong Girl Publishing's authors, including Molly Herford, Misha Powell, and so many more. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.